As we've been telling you, of all things, the U.S. government is pushing BP to reopen the oil well it finally plugged just last week. The reason? An apparent leak was found on the seabed. For more, we're joined this morning by Carl Larry, president of Oil Outlooks and Opinions. Carl is a former vice president at the energy divisions of both Credit Suisse and Citigroup. Carl, let's ask this question first. From your standpoint, how much of a setback is this compared with Friday when it appeared everything was moving forward so well?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that need to be questioned here. Number one, did BP actually know about another leak further down the line? And what will they do about not just the leak that needs to be capped, but about this new leak? So now we're talking about two leaks, which actually causes a much bigger problem than what we already know.
A much bigger problem. Let's try to put that in perspective. We have not thus far heard any definitive evidence of a leak on the seabed, and we need to be clear about this. This is far away, or at least some distance from the blowout preventer. And it makes me think of, I'm not sure whether you saw these emails that were going around a couple of weeks ago, almost conspiracy-like theory stuff where Russian scientists were accusing, or at least were said to be accusing BP of having fractured the seabed, and this was going to be impossible to fix. I mean, do you have any sense of how bad it might be and whether or not there's just a ton that we still don't know about this problem?
I think some people were bringing up some really good points about this earlier, is the fact that the amount of oil that's spilled out and possibly even at the rate that they were saying it was spilling out was obviously too big for that pipeline. And the problem also when you think about this is that we never really got a confirmation of actually how much oil was being spilled out of that pipeline. And that almost raises a question is, how did they know, or why didn't they know how much was coming out of that pipeline? And maybe they might have known that there was oil coming out somewhere else. Very big questions here that really need to be answered.
Well, look, I know it's hard for you to be definitive, Carl, but what do you think? Do you think that BP or perhaps even the government have been keeping some of this information from us because they were hoping at the very least to get the problem contained, maybe have some success with the relief well?
Well, I'll tell you what, Eric, outside of BP, and now that's a pretty big outside if, I think that everybody else knows as much as we know, and they don't know. And that's a problem. And when we talked about plugging this well right off the beginning, just something very simple, the fact of the matter is it's that 5,000 feet below the sea level, it's hard to know what's actually going on down there, whether it's near the oil spill or whether it's further down the line. I don't think anybody really has a grasp on what's going on. All we know is that there's a major problem and it needs to get fixed. How it gets fixed from here on in is really going to be just a tough one to answer.
How serious could this be? What does it mean if there is a leak on the seabed, and does it potentially threaten the efforts to successfully drill a relief well, or would the relief well fix the problem?
I think we're going to have to wonder about if a relief well will fix the problem, and that's a big if too. I think a lot of people have been very optimistic on that, saying that the relief well is 100 feet from the site where it needs to be. This is really a fine-tuned project that they need to make sure happens right, and it's not going to happen right the first time. And I think we have to just put that off for now. And if that's true, and there's another leak somewhere else, that's going to exponentially, increase the problem. I think one thing we know for sure, though, is the fact that government ban on deepwater drilling will probably come to the forefront, and we'll have to stop. There's just no way they're going to let this continue as long as there's issues with this leak and possibly other leaks.